There are women who require no dazzling beauty, no beguiling ploys, nor do they strive to appease anyone. They simply possess an uncanny, quiet power, a presence that is complete, yet holds a delicate distance. And curiously, it is this very near, yet far quality that renders them utterly captivating. It's not that they consciously project an aura of coldness or arrogance, nor are they engaged in a game of cat and mouse. Rather, the self-possessed energy they radiate awakens a deep, primal instinct within the masculine psyche, the fervent desire to conquer what does not fully belong to them. Suddenly, the typically rational man finds himself bewildered, even haunted. Instead of the comfortable security of being pursued, he feels an unsettling anxiety, a fear of losing you. He begins to question, to invest emotionally, and to yearn for entry into the private world you so carefully hold. Now, imagine yourself in this powerful position. What would happen if you ceased seeking your worth in the gaze of another? If you dared to cultivate happiness from within, leaving mysterious spaces for their imagination to wander? If you transformed into a treasure awaiting discovery, rather than someone perpetually ready and waiting? And this is the very key that unlocks the door to eternal allure. For the moment you comprehend these 7 profound layers of feminine energy, illuminated by the philosophy of Jung, you will not only transform how men perceive you, but also reshape the very destiny of your emotional life. Come, let us journey deep into the psyche, to awaken the powerful woman slumbering within you. 1. The power of emotional contrast. When night falls in a quiet neighborhood, there are moments when you sit silently by the window, the soft yellow light glinting off a warm cup of tea, quietly watching the world move outside. Life is sometimes exactly like that street, steady, orderly, each beat predictable. But then, just one sudden clap of thunder in the night can awaken you. Suddenly, all your senses come alive. That is the feeling that, deep down, we all crave. Difference, surprise, and the range of emotional fluctuation. Have you ever wondered why there are women who, with just one appearance, are able to linger in a man's mind long after? Why does someone make an ordinary life suddenly feel colorful, make your heart beat faster, even though they do nothing particularly unusual? If you have ever found yourself restlessly missing someone for no reason, or drawn toward a person who is somehow unpredictable, that is when you are touching the secret of the power of emotional contrast. The kind of energy that forms the deepest level of feminine allure. Have you ever looked back at yourself and realized you have lived too long within the pattern of being pleasant, always trying to be kind, stable, reasonable, and predictable? How many times have you hidden your sadness, suppressed your joy just to maintain a balanced image, afraid that if you reveal a little vulnerability, a bit of rebellion, someone might leave you? On the contrary, the more you try to always be perfect, do you see yourself becoming increasingly faded? Those around you colder, curiosity fading, with no one left wanting to discover more? The truth is, no one is addicted to an ideal person. People are addicted to feelings, addicted to surprises, addicted to the emotional movement that someone else evokes. Carl Jung once wrote, "The meeting of 2 personalities is like the contact of 2 chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. It's not a bland combination, but a reaction. Deep transformation only occurs between 2 souls who truly know how to live." Modern emotional psychology has also shown that the deepest memories do not come from flat, uneventful days, but from those rich moments of amplitude where we tremble and feel happiness, are both vulnerable and proud, both comforted and challenged. Research by Daniel Kahneman at Princeton has demonstrated that what lingers from a relationship is not stability, but the climaxes, the surprises, the days of arguing and then forgiving, laughing out loud and then going silent. It is contrast, not ideal stability. That becomes the emotional anchor making someone want to stay. Surely you still remember your mother, not just because she was gentle, but because she dared to cry, dared to get angry, dared to show real emotions in front of you. That memory is profound because it is multi-layered, not one-dimensional. Or take the story of jazz singer Etta James. Throughout her life, Edda never apologized for daring to be authentic. On stage, she could make the room go silent with a heartbreaking ballad, then suddenly explode with bright laughter and razor-sharp lyrics. People said of Edda, "You never knew what you were going to get, but you always knew it would be real." It is that unpredictable transformation that makes Edda an enduring icon, never just beautiful, but fierce, unpredictable, and utterly real. Another everyday example. Judith, an educator, once shared that her husband used to complain about her unpredictability. But years later, when Judith was seriously ill, he confessed, "It's your surprises that keep me endlessly curious. Sometimes I get annoyed, but I know I will never fully discover you." Judith was both an anchor and the range of life in her husband's world, not easy to understand, not easy to possess, and certainly not easy to forget. Emotional contrast is not chaos, nor is it an act. It is the sum of authenticity and inner freedom. Gentle enough to make those beside you feel safe, strong enough to earn their respect. Sometimes just a moment of silence arouses more curiosity than 1,000 words. At other times, a sudden revelation lifts the whole atmosphere. You cannot be defined, much less completely grasped, and because of that, you are a mystery, an endless source of emotion for anyone who knows how to appreciate it. You might think, does living this way get exhausting? In truth, exhaustion only comes when we force ourselves, hide half our emotions, and push ourselves into the mold of perfection, always cheerful, kind, yielding. But look back, those moments when you allowed yourself to be angry, innocent, humorous, sensual, cold. Those were also when you were most free. Studies on relationships have shown the freedom to express emotions is precisely the factor that sustains long-lasting allure. Carl Jung once wrote, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." When you are brave enough to live fully with all your emotions, both light and dark, both weakness and strength, you become the most complete version of yourself. And perhaps, men may never say it out loud, but they will always remember the woman who dares to live so authentically. If you want to begin, try allowing yourself to live true to each emotional moment, instead of suppressing or distorting it for someone else. Dare to say, "I'm sad," when your heart feels heavy. Dare to laugh when you really want to laugh. Dare to be justly angry. Dare to be vulnerable without feeling ashamed. Don't lock yourself in a safe shell, because no one ever remembers absolute safety for long. Try this small practice. Tomorrow, when you talk with a loved one, don't answer everything by habit with, "I'm fine," or "it's nothing." Say your real feelings, whether they are joy, confusion, or disappointment. Or simply, listen to a brand new song and let the emotions move inside you, without control, without judgment. You are a novel no one can predict the next page of. The privilege of emotional contrast is that you don't need to be a perfect painting, just one with enough light, dark, stillness, and climax. Those with enough patience will find what makes them remember you forever. Are you ready to allow yourself to live fully, to let that multidimensionality become your most natural magnetism? Don't answer right away. Ask yourself on a truly quiet night, when the gentle light rests by your window, what is really the anchor that makes someone unable to forget you, not because you are perfect, but because you are your true self, layered enough that no one wants to lose you? And if one day you realize that the wonderful thing is not conquering someone, but making others endlessly curious about you, never able to predict your next feeling, that is the moment you have mastered the power of emotional contrast within yourself. We believe that everyone's journey is unique. How has the power of emotional contrast affected your path of personal development or your relationships? Illuminate everyone with a comment below. 2. Mastering emotions. The energy of self-authority. Have you ever lain on your familiar bed, eyes half closed, your mind replaying all the emotions of a long day? Suddenly, your image appears like a compass in a storm. Someone enters the room, bringing with them a strange breeze, but your compass needle remains steady, unshaken. That person may come closer or move away, may say sweet things or sometimes be indifferent, but you are still yourself, whole, at peace, and unshaken just because someone comes or goes. Have you ever dreamed of that feeling? It's not coldness, nor is it arrogance. It is the energy of someone who has mastered their emotions, a source of magnetism that commands the respect of anyone. It's hard to deny that most of us have lived years when our self-worth was like a pendulum soaring high with someone's compliment, then dropping low over a single unanswered message. This dependence is nothing to be ashamed of. It is the result of society, of culture, of old beliefs about love and femininity, that our other half always exists somewhere out there, that happiness must be given to us, not a state we can create for ourselves. But at some point, when you've gone through enough cycles of disappointment and letdown, will you dare to stop and ask, if tomorrow no one is by my side, do I have the courage to love myself? Carl Jung called this process individuation. Individuation means becoming an individual, and insofar as individuality embraces our innermost, last, and incomparable uniqueness, it also implies becoming one's own self. When a woman reaches this state, she does not need anyone to validate her worth. No longer waits for someone to fill her emptiness. She is no longer afraid of being left behind, does not lower her value to make someone stay, and does not lose herself in the whirlwind of emotions. Why is self-authority so attractive? The answer lies in the deepest nature of human psychology. We all want to be with someone, not because they need us to live, but because they choose to stay for the joy, the goals, and the unique world they have built. A woman who has mastered her emotions is one who knows how to nurture happiness within herself, not imprisoning her moods in the storms of someone else. There are women, after divorce, after many losses, who choose to spend a year just learning something new, painting, climbing, learning a new language, taking care of their mental health. They do not rush to find someone to fill the emptiness, but choose to face loneliness, walk through it, and finally, enjoy true freedom. If you have ever heard of Maya Angelou, poet and social activist, you will see the most vivid example of self-authority. Her life is a journey of constant transformation, from a young girl who survived violence, to a singer, actress, then writer, university professor, and inspiration for millions. In her autobiography, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, she wrote about a phase of growing up alone, when all she had was her inner voice, and it was that non-dependence on anyone but herself that made Maya Angelou a symbol of resilience and ageless magnetism. Another close-to-home example is the story of Evelyn, a middle-aged reader who once wrote a letter to the psychology column in the New York Times. After more than 20 years of marriage, Evelyn faced the breakdown of her marriage. In her pain, she spent months waiting for a message, a call, hoping for some explanation. But then, one day, Evelyn decided to change her habits. Instead of checking her phone, she started learning flower arranging, taking walks every morning, rereading the books she had long set aside. Gradually, her emotions were no longer dependent on someone else's presence. Evelyn wrote, "I realized that I could still feel joy, sadness, disappointment, hope, and then be reborn, all without anyone else by my side. When I stopped to invest in myself, the people around me also began to look at me with a respect they had never shown before." Modern psychology has proven this. Emotional self-control is the deepest, most enduring form of attraction, the foundation for every healthy relationship. When you no longer rise and fall according to someone else's moods or actions, you free yourself from the cycle of dependence, from the sense of, I am only worthy if someone acknowledges me. A study by Dr. Terry Orbuch, a clinical psychologist, pointed out that those who know how to nurture their own interests, goals, and independent relationships outside of romance have a much higher rate of happiness and lasting connection than those who are completely dependent on their partner's emotions. But how do you break free from the habit of putting your feelings in someone else's hands? First, you need to pause and listen to yourself. What joys did you have before you entered a relationship? What habits, passions, or plans did you postpone just to make time for someone? Don't be afraid to give yourself quiet moments, days to enjoy dinner alone, take yourself to the movies, try a new sport by yourself. That is not selfishness, but true self-love. Focus your investment on what makes you feel alive. Learn a new skill, reconnect with old friends, take care of your physical and mental health, establish good routines. Instead of waiting for someone to call your name, set small goals for yourself each week. Finish a book, paint a picture, join a community group, or simply savor a quiet morning without noise. Gradually, you'll realize self-authority is not a wall of separation, but a land where you get to grow, to love, and to shine. When you are happy because of yourself, you no longer fear someone coming or going. If someone chooses to stay, it's because they genuinely want to, not because you are holding them back. Strangely, this very energy becomes a quiet magnetism, making others want to enter your world, a world of order, of light, of peace, of challenge, but never a place where someone has to shoulder the responsibility of making you happy. Carl Jung once emphasized, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Not to become the version someone else wants, not to fit into any mold, but to grow, to be whole, to be confident, self-sufficient, and free even when you are alone." Maybe today you still find yourself swept along by your emotions, still anxious over a glance, a word, a moment of being forgotten. That is not wrong. It's only a temporary state on the journey back to your true self. What matters is that you have enough courage to start, little by little, to rebuild your self-authority, to build happiness from the inside out, not relying on, not waiting for, a miracle from anyone else. You can start tomorrow, with a small change. Set aside 30 minutes, with no social media, no messages, just to do something you enjoy. Invest in your inner world. Rewrite the rules for your life. When you know how to love and nurture yourself, men or anyone will realize you are no longer a fragile support needing to be rescued, but a compass needle remaining calm amid the winds. Finally, remember, mastering your emotions is a gift you give yourself first. When you no longer need anyone to complete you, you are no longer afraid of losing anyone. And that is the most beautiful, profound, and lasting freedom that an experienced woman can choose for her journey. 3. The power of mystery and personal space. There are chilly mornings when you stand on your porch, watching the fog gently veil the garden, everything appearing half-blurred, clear enough to recognize but hazy enough that you can't reach all of it. Sometimes, it's the feeling of not being able to see everything in one moment that makes you linger longer, wanting to discover what lies beyond that layer of mist. Have you ever noticed that the more you try to pull back the mist, the less enchanting the garden becomes? In relationships, mystery is like that morning mist, not a wall that separates, but a delicate curtain that keeps a little something untold, giving the other person a chance to explore slowly. An attractive woman is not someone who tells all her stories the first time you meet, but someone who knows how to keep little corners of herself unopened, spaces that only reveal themselves to the right person, at the right time. This isn't coldness or pretense, but self-respect. A quiet way to protect what's most sacred inside. Have you ever met someone whose glance, smile, or even a gentle shake of the head was enough to make you wonder, what is she thinking? Or, what else is inside her that I haven't seen? That mystery, according to Carl Jung, isn't a technique, but a natural effect of projection. Man's task is to become conscious of the contents that press upward from the unconscious. The unresolved depths within you are exactly what makes others so curious, wanting to stay and uncover more. In reality, behavioral psychology shows that things left unfinished, relationships with questions unanswered, stories left open-ended, always stimulate the imagination much more than those where everything is explained. If you've ever watched a movie that ends with an open ending, you probably remember it much longer than films that explain everything completely. That's why someone who knows how to keep their personal space, a pause for imagination, always has a lasting, unforgettable allure. Think of actress Lauren Bacall, an icon of classic mystery. She would walk into a room with a look that never gave away its meaning, a husky voice, a smile half hidden. Lauren Bacall never revealed everything about herself, either on screen or in real life. But that was exactly what captivated the world. People could never capture Bacall entirely, and no one really wanted to, because as long as there is something left to discover, the fascination remains. Or consider the story of Mark, a man who divorced at 55, talking about the woman he loved after his breakup. She never hurried to answer all my questions. Sometimes I only received a smile, a half-finished answer, and I knew I needed time. That made me more patient, more sincere, and I felt as if I was standing before a great secret that deserved to be cherished. Mark realized that this personal space wasn't a sign of distance, but a gift, reserved only for someone truly worthy. The solution here is not in playing hide and seek, nor in manipulating someone's feelings. True mystery is when you allow yourself to keep a private part, only sharing deeply when you feel safe, and you don't feel guilty for doing so. If someone presses you about your past on the first meeting, you have every right to smile and say, "I'll share, if we really go further." That's not a lack of sincerity. That's being polite with yourself. Practicing mystery starts with knowing where your personal boundaries are, what you're ready to share, what you should keep, and who is trustworthy enough for you to open up more. This choice becomes even more important for those who have experienced pain, who have feared being judged or misunderstood, because you are the caretaker of your inner garden, no one else. Carl Jung once emphasized, "In all chaos there is a cosmos, in all disorder a secret order. Behind silence, sometimes there is a system of values and deep emotions, things that are only revealed when there is true safety." Leave some spaces of silence. Let someone walk alongside you step by step, and believe that no one stays just because they know everything about you. People stay because they want to journey with you, to grow together, to unveil new layers of mystery together, to learn how to love both the parts already told and the parts still untold. Mystery is not a mask, but a soft power. It allows you to filter out those who are truly deep and mature enough to understand. Love is a long journey of searching, not a treasure map that can be solved by just flipping to the end. And when you maintain that space, you no longer need anyone to remind you of your value. It is precisely the incompleteness, the unexplained, the unhurriedness that keeps someone around long enough, and also helps you remain steady in any journey you undertake. We are curious. Have you recently faced challenges in maintaining your own mystery and personal space? Please share your story and insights in the comments. Let's help each other grow. How has maintaining your personal space and the power of mystery changed your life? Share your experience below for others to learn from. 4. The joy within, wholeness before seeking. There are golden afternoons when you walk through a quiet park, yellow leaves falling on the benches, the sky softening with a peaceful calm. At such moments, you might notice a woman sitting alone reading a book, smiling to herself at her own thoughts, not waiting for anyone to come over and talk, not in a hurry to blend into any group. The air around her feels unexpectedly light, as if everything is perfectly fine without anyone having to witness it. You sense something different. She isn't waiting, she isn't lacking, she doesn't need to be filled. She is simply living and living authentically, living fully. The joy within is not something you wear like a new dress. It is the essence of maturity, the gift you give yourself after enough days spent waiting for others to bring you happiness. The truly whole woman, in the most beautiful sense, is the one who knows how to make herself happy before she ever hopes anyone else might do that for her. Have you ever fallen into this state? After heartbreak, after dozens of dates and encounters, sometimes you feel your heart is weary, like a house awaiting guests who never arrive. Maybe you have sacrificed your time, changed your habits, even let go of personal interests just to please someone else. And yet, all that pleasing never fills the real emptiness. Sometimes it even makes you feel lonelier when, one day, that person turns away and leaves. In those very moments, many come to realize, no one but yourself is capable of rebuilding the home within your soul. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." Hard to believe, isn't it? But once you dare to face yourself, courageous enough to accept both your light and your darkness, your joys and the sorrows that no one else can understand, you will discover the most special energy of all. Freedom. Freedom not to perform, not to need permission to enjoy happiness, not to prove to anyone that you are worthy. Notice this. A man may notice your appearance in the first moments of meeting, but what haunts him, what makes him want to stay longer, is always the way you live, the way you shine when you need no one's approval. Someone once asked, "What is it about a woman that you remember most?" The answer was simple. It's the moment she happily laughs to herself, the way she tells a story unrelated to me, and her eyes still sparkle. That's wholeness. That's a completeness that isn't dependent on anyone else. You can find evidence for this anywhere, in the most inspiring women of our time. Take Michelle Obama, who once shared about the period when she had to learn to take care of herself, to find meaning in even the smallest moments of her life. As First Lady, Michelle was not just the president's wife, but a woman who built her own education projects, her own health initiatives, who wrote her own books, who found joy in each busy, pressured day. In her memoir, Becoming, she emphasizes, "I learned to recognize that joy is not something that happens to you. It's something you make space for." Michelle's story is a typical example of a woman who knows how to nurture joy from within, and that very thing radiates outwards, making others feel safe, light, and eager to accompany her. Or the story of Sandra, a middle-aged artist in Illinois. Sandra went through a 22-year marriage before choosing divorce and starting life over on her own. Her friends once thought Sandra would be lost and adrift, but the opposite turned out to be true. Sandra taught herself to cook, spent time painting, planted flowers in her garden, bought herself beautiful bouquets every weekend, and always reminded herself, "Happiness is something I can create every day, not something someone brings and then takes away." She shared that when she felt sad, she would walk in the park. When happy, she would turn on music and dance alone in her living room. No one needed to witness those moments, because Sandra knew that true fulfillment requires no proof. Those small joys made her life more colorful, and anyone who came near Sandra was drawn to her positive, peaceful energy. Modern psychology agrees. Those who know how to treat themselves, who savor each small pleasure, tend to be far more attractive in the long run. They are less likely to be wounded when someone leaves, because they know their worth does not depend on the presence or recognition of others. They live in a state of wholeness, and anyone who enters their life is simply a guest, not someone who comes to fill a void. So what do you need to do to nurture this inner joy, to become whole before seeking someone to walk with you? First, practice pausing during your day and ask yourself, what brings me joy, even just a little? It could be your morning coffee, an old song, a good book, or a few notes in your journal. Let yourself enjoy that moment without needing to share it with anyone, without posting it on social media for others to see. Make yourself a delicious dinner, go to the movies by yourself, plan a short trip even if you travel alone. You'll see that treating yourself isn't just a skill, it's a positive energy that makes you lighter, relieves the weight of others' expectations. Start recording your small daily accomplishments, finishing a project at work, taking care of your health, learning a new skill, maintaining a good habit. Every time you reward yourself, you become more aware of your inner value, and naturally, the urge to find someone to fill a gap fades away. Carl Jung once wrote, "The acceptance of oneself is the essence of the whole moral problem, and the epitome of a whole outlook on life." Only when you accept every aspect of yourself, your strength, and your moments of weakness, do you truly experience pure joy, unclouded by the fear of being alone, unwarped by the obsession that you must have someone by your side to feel worthy. And then, you'll realize that men, or anyone else, are always drawn to this energy. They'll always remember how it felt to be with you, to see you laugh freely, walk confidently, cook for yourself, tell an ordinary story with your eyes shining bright. They remember you not because you tried to please them, but because you lived fully for yourself. And anyone who joins you is just a bonus to a life already complete. In the end, remember this: happiness is something you can absolutely create, preserve, and enjoy on your own, independent of anyone. When you truly delight in every small thing in your life, you will no longer fear losing someone, or being left behind, or feel an emptiness needing to be filled by someone else. It is then that you become your most unique self, and others are not only drawn to you, but also feel at peace simply by being near. Wholeness before seeking is a state of absolute freedom. It is the pinnacle of maturity, a journey you take on your own to discover that all the greatest joys begin in simplicity, in the act of loving yourself a little more each day. And if someone does come, it's because they want to enjoy happiness with you, not because they are a required condition for it. 5. Complete presence. True connection. Sometimes, on quiet evenings, you sit in your small kitchen, where warm golden light shines onto the old wooden table. A steaming cup of tea, the ticking of the clock, reminds you of the passage of time. Someone close to you sits across the table, and in that moment, you don't have to do anything but listen. Time seems to stand still, the outside world fades away, and all that remains is presence, not just the presence of a body, but the full presence of a soul, of eyes, of silent empathy. This is not a skill that can be trained in a short course. It is the capacity to live authentically with the moment, with yourself, with the person in front of you, something increasingly rare in this age of smartphones and rushed conversations. Complete presence may sound simple, but in reality, it is a huge challenge for anyone who has ever experienced loss, loneliness, or wounds that have yet to heal. Think about it. How many times have you talked to someone while your mind wandered to old stories, or you were quietly planning what to say next? How many times have you felt lost in the middle of a conversation? And how many times have you longed for someone to truly listen to you, not just your words, but what remains unsaid, to listen with their heart, with steady eyes, without judgment? Carl Jung once emphasized a profound truth. Loneliness does not come from having no people around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you. Loneliness is not the absence of people beside you, but the feeling that no one can truly reach the deepest part within you. And only when someone is completely present is that feeling of isolation soothed. This presence does not come from words or outward actions, but arises from a state of mind, a state of acceptance, with no expectations, no impositions, no attempts to fix the other person, just simply being there, sharing the same genuinely living space. Looking back on your own experiences, you'll realize a man may meet many beautiful, talented, accomplished women. But what he remembers most, what stays with him the longest, is that rare moment when he can be himself, tell his secrets without fear of being judged. Breathe a sigh of relief, knowing that every feeling, whether fragile or strong, is safe before the one across from him. This presence does not come from fancy words or professional communication skills, but from the ability to truly be there, truly listen, truly share. Think about the story of Fred Rogers, the famous television host of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. The whole country once sat in front of their screens, not to watch someone funny or flashy, but to feel a vibrant energy. A man who knew how to truly listen to every child, every audience member, every guest. His gentleness, slowness, and patience were proof of the power of presence. Someone once asked Rogers what his secret was to being loved by both children and adults, and he simply replied, "The greatest gift you ever give is your honest self. When you are truly present, undistracted, not trying to be interesting, you create a safe zone where others dare to show their true selves." Similarly, Oprah Winfrey, an icon of inspiration, is famous not only for her success but also for her deep capacity for presence in every conversation. Thousands have passed through her studio, from ordinary people to politicians, stars, and top business leaders. Everyone says the same thing. When Oprah listens, it feels as if only the two of you exist in the world. No phone, no checking the clock, no interruptions. Just complete attention and a silence that is never awkward. That presence is the power that lets people open up about their most painful secrets, and it is also what makes Oprah the keeper of hope for so many wounded hearts. In psychological healing therapies, therapists all agree present moment awareness is one of the key factors that help patients recover. Many times, people don't need advice or solutions. They just need someone to be present, so they know they are being listened to, respected, accepted exactly as they are, good or bad, enough or lacking, light or dark. Carl Jung also once wrote, "To be aware of oneself is to be watchful of reality, in the now." True self-development is not found in theory, but in the ability to live fully in the present, not lost in the past or vague about the future. So what solution can you use to practice full presence, especially if you have experienced heartbreak, loneliness, or loss? Start by practicing listening without judgment. When you are with someone, put your phone down, look them in the eye, listen not just to their words but to the emotions behind every pause. Don't rush to answer. Don't interrupt with your own story. Sometimes, empathetic silence is more valuable than any advice. Just a nod, a steady gaze, a gentle squeeze of the hand can be a solid support for someone to weather the storm inside them. Practice deep listening. Listening not just to reply but to truly understand. When you listen fully, you also heal yourself, because the energy of presence has a reverse effect, making you feel peaceful, no longer swept away by invisible pressures or expectations. Sometimes, ask yourself, am I truly present, or just a shadow in this room? Don't be afraid to remind yourself to return to your breath, to this very moment. When your mind begins to wander, refocus with small questions. What does the person in front of me need right now? Am I really here? This is not only courtesy toward others, but also a gift to yourself, the gift of vitality, of genuine connection, of healing energy. When you are fully present, you also allow the person opposite you to be themselves, without defenses, without pretense. You'll realize that the deepest relationships do not come from external attraction, but from the feeling of, I am safe here, I am understood, I am not alone with my complicated emotions. Don't think that full presence is merely the art of conversation. It is the art of living. It is the ability to leave the past behind, let the future wait quietly outside the door, and devote yourself completely to each breath, each story, each gaze. When you are truly there, you will discover something miraculous. Not only do you help others to heal, but you also feel less alone on your own journey of growth. Finally, Carl Jung once wrote, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. Only when you are genuinely present, undistracted, unpretending, undefended, can you create the most miraculous transformational reaction. True connection, where both are changed, both grow, both become better after each encounter. If you have ever been exhausted by half-hearted relationships, rushed conversations, moments of feeling abandoned in a crowd, now you know how to return to the deepest essence of connection. Slow down, listen more, offer your presence to others and to yourself. In that way, you not only become someone unforgettable to others, but also someone who never loses yourself on any journey of love, growth, and healing. Have you ever experienced the power of true presence in your relationships? What moments made you deeply feel real connection without judgment, without distraction? Please share your stories, challenges, or lessons in the comments below, so together we can spread inspiration and understanding. Your perspective could be the motivation for many others who are seeking sincere connection. 6. Strategic scarcity. The value of rarity. Have you ever sat quietly on your balcony at dusk, watching the last rays of sunlight fall across an empty chair? A little bird lands on the railing, just for a moment, then flies away. You watch in wonder, and that beautiful feeling lingers, not because of the bird itself, but because of its surprise, its brevity, its one-time appearance and then disappearance. We are often like that. We remember a rare moment for a long time. We crave to repeat what we cannot keep. You may ask yourself, why is something rare so precious? Why do things that could disappear always make us want? Invest our emotions even more. In love and relationships, this scarcity effect is more powerful than any other psychological formula. People cherish what is not easily attained, crave what cannot be completely possessed, and feel that the more, the easier something is, the faster it becomes boring. Have you ever thought, if someone is always there, always available, always says yes to every one of your plans, would your feelings for them be as strong as in the beginning? But if, sometimes, they are busy, they prioritize themselves, they disappear in a self-possessed way, isn't it true that you will remember, wonder, ask yourself, and invest more emotion? Carl Jung once emphasized, the pendulum of the mind oscillates between sense and nonsense, not between right and wrong. This is the pendulum of the mind swinging between logic and feelings that are hard to explain, between reason and contradiction, between the joy of holding on to something and the intense longing for what cannot be fully grasped. It is precisely this unpredictability, this elusiveness, this difficulty of approach that makes someone linger in your memory, make you think, make you want more. The scarcity effect has long been identified in behavioral psychology. Robert Cialdini, author of Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion, proved, opportunities seem more valuable to us when their availability is limited. In relationships, those selective appearances, those moments that are just enough to make someone long for more, just enough for them to invest emotionally, always turn you into an anchor in their memory, in their feelings, in their personal growth. When you are always present, you become the background, the inevitable part, the default option. But when you know how to step back, prioritize yourself, disappear intentionally, every time you return becomes an event, a milestone, a joy that no one dares to take lightly. This story isn't just theory. Look at the life of Maya Angelou, the renowned poet, writer, and civil rights activist. Maya Angelou once said she rarely agreed to attend every event, rarely answered all invitations, rarely appeared repeatedly in the media. Her appearances became an event, and every word she said, every time she stood on a stage, was a moment to be remembered. Maya Angelou never allowed herself to become easily accessible. She chose her time, her energy, her own values. It was precisely this rarity that made every message, every presence of hers become a memory, a lasting source of inspiration. Recall your teenage years, when a band or artist you loved rarely released a new album. The excitement, the anticipation, even the hunt for each limited edition, compared to the indifference you feel when an artist releases products constantly and is always present on social media. The most precious thing is not in quantity, but in that feeling of, there will come a time when I have no more chances. Human psychology is programmed to invest in what is rare, to remember what is not always available. So, how can you apply strategic scarcity in your journey of growth, self-development, and relationships? Not by pretending to be cold or intentionally ignoring someone. The secret lies in prioritizing yourself, putting yourself first, nurturing your own passions, schedule, and emotions, and only showing up when you genuinely want to, when you are truly ready. That is self-respect, knowing you are valuable enough not to stay everywhere all the time just out of fear of being forgotten. A close example is the journey of Carol, a 8-year-old businesswoman who went through a failed marriage. Carol shared that after her divorce, she spent time rebuilding her career, learning to paint, practicing yoga, traveling with her daughter. When she started dating again, she never abandoned her personal plans just to please someone new. She dared to say no, dared to postpone a date for her painting class, dared to delay replying to a message because she needed to conserve her own energy. The result? The most serious man among her relationships shared that it was the feeling of not being easy to attain, not any sort of game, that made him invest more, cherish each moment, and willingly wait for the chance to see her. Nor can we overlook the power of selective appearance on social media, something very close to the habits of many middle-aged Americans. Elizabeth Gilbert, author of Eat, Pray, Love, is known for rarely sharing too much about her personal life. Each of her posts is a fragment of thought, a deep experience, carefully selected, and only appears at a truly meaningful moment. This makes her community always eagerly anticipate, always remember what she wrote, always treat each post as a treasure, not just another message among a sea of content out there. Put yourself in the shoes of the person on the other side. If someone is always there when you call, always changes plans for you, always says yes, always easy to predict, do you still feel excited every time you meet them? Or do you automatically think, I don't have to make any effort, this person will always be there? And then, your feelings gradually diminish, your investment lessens, and that person becomes a familiar part, easily forgotten in the whirl of life. Carl Jung once said, what you resist, persists. What you allow others to have too easily will ultimately lose its value. True attraction only lasts when it appears at the right time, in the right measure, with the right energy, like the last rays of sunlight, like the bird that lands only once and then flies away. So what is the practical solution? First, learn to say no without feeling guilty. Set boundaries for yourself and for others. No one has the right to own you completely. Then, always remember to prioritize your own schedule, habits, and values. Don't change all your plans just because someone new has entered your life. Let them see that you have your own world, that you possess things more valuable than unconditional presence. Remember, be proactive about disappearing when you need to recharge your energy. Don't hesitate to give yourself moments of silence, days offline, times when you don't answer messages. And finally, only choose to show up when you truly want to, not out of fear of being left behind. Your value lies in your right to choose, not in trying to please someone else. Always keep in mind, the rarer you are, the more special you become. The more you actively prioritize yourself, the more others will want to invest, want to discover, want to hold on. Do not trade your scarcity for temporary safety. Do not make yourself into something too easy, too cheap, too available, that anyone can have. Always ask yourself, what inside me is being depleted Because I show up too often, too easily. If you have ever felt exhausted, ever felt undervalued, ever wondered why you are no longer cherished, begin to practice making yourself scarce again. Dare to prioritize yourself. Dare to say, no. Dare to disappear when you need to recharge. When you do, you will not only reclaim your inherent worth, but also become the version that anyone must remember, must think about, must invest in, must desire, even if it is only for a single appearance. Maybe, after all, your greatest value is not in the number of times you are present, but in the moments when you know how to appear at the right time, for the right person, with the right energy, like the afternoon sunlight, like the little bird, like a beautiful dream that passes by only once but leaves an echo forever. 7. Giving men the opportunity to invest, creating the motivation for attachment. On those weekend strolls, as you gaze at the lush garden where flowers do not all bloom at the same time, you notice there are blossoms that only open when they have enough sunlight, enough water, enough time. Some branches need nurturing, someone to pay close attention to every detail, someone willing to wait, to be patient, to devote effort every single day. That is how nature teaches us about the maturity of emotions, about the value of investment, that anything that comes easily also fades easily, while what we have tended and cared for with effort will endure and bond us for a long time. So, have you ever wondered? Why are there men willing to let go of even beautiful relationships to pursue a woman who is not always gentle, not always accommodating, but who makes them crave the chance to invest, to be willing to dedicate themselves, step by step, just to reach her? What is it about that woman that makes a man unable to walk away, even when his reason tells him to let go? The answer is simple, yet not easy to put into practice. It is because they are given the opportunity to invest, to be challenged, to play the role of the one who creates value in the relationship. Behavioral psychology has revealed an undeniable principle. The more effort, time, and emotion we put into something, the more attached we feel to it, the harder it is to let go. People don't just love the results, they love the whole journey they went through, the stumbles, the disappointments, the suspense, the joy, and how they grew after every step forward. When a man is given the opportunity to invest materially, mentally, and emotionally, he feels pride in himself, in his journey, and in the woman who created that motivation. Carl Jung once wrote, "What you resist not only persists, but will grow in size." It is precisely what does not come too easily. The challenges, the mysteries, the opportunities to contribute and to mature, that make a man unable to look away, unable to let go, unable to stop striving to become better every day. Have you ever heard about the decades-long love story of Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward, one of the most admired couples in Hollywood? They were not only proof of faithfulness but also a symbol of unceasing investment in their relationship. Paul Newman once said Joanne never made him feel like an outsider in her life. On the contrary, she always created opportunities for him to be involved, to accompany her, to make an effort. Even as an Oscar-winning actress, Joanne never tried to do everything herself. She asked Paul for help, shared her challenges, so he could have the chance to affirm his role and feel important, and that very thing kept their love burning strong through so many storms. A more everyday example is the story of Ron, a man in his 50s who once shared in a newspaper about his relationship after divorce. Ron said that in middle age, he had dated many independent, strong women, but it was his second wife, a woman who knew how to open up and ask for help, who knew how to share her vulnerable days, who left space for him to play the role of a companion, who made him want to stay the longest. Ron said, "I felt needed, able to contribute, able to become an important part of that story. It wasn't a duty, it was a source of pride." Why is that? Because at their core, men are not looking for a perfect woman, nor do they need a superwoman who does everything herself, and especially not a martyr who always endures and solves every problem without letting anyone in. Men need to feel that they make a difference, that they are stronger and more mature when they get to participate in caring, protecting, and overcoming challenges together. When you do everything yourself, when you don't need anyone, when you refuse all help, whether out of pride, fear of being seen as weak, or just because you're used to carrying everything alone, you unintentionally take away the other person's chance to prove their value, to grow within the relationship. So how can you truly give men the opportunity to invest, rather than just using tricks to control? Start by leaving room for things to be filled in, by leaving challenges to overcome together, by leaving moments of vulnerability so someone else can step in and contribute to shared happiness. Dare to ask for help when you need it. Dare to share your real emotions. Dare to admit you're not okay. Dare to let your partner see that you're not perfect. Because when you allow a man to show up as a companion, you're also giving him a reason to stay, to invest more, to take pride in the relationship you're building together. Remember the story of Melinda Gates, co-founder of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, who once shared about her marriage to Bill Gates. She was never afraid to ask Bill to help with small things around the house, never hesitated to ask for his opinion on important decisions, never shied away from sharing her vulnerable or uncertain moments in work and life. Melinda said, "Marriage is a partnership. You can't be strong every day. Sometimes you let your partner take the wheel." That kind of sharing didn't make Melinda weaker. On the contrary, it allowed both of them to grow, to invest, to become more connected, because each person felt like an irreplaceable part of the shared journey. In practice, you can start with the smallest things. When facing difficulties, don't try to pretend you're fine. Allow yourself to ask, to seek help, to give your partner the role of helper. When a problem needs to be decided, consult him, so he knows his opinion matters. Don't be afraid to show your vulnerability, your imperfection, because that's the very foundation of a mature love, a journey of growth. Remember, men also long for the feeling of conquering, contributing, doing something meaningful for those they love. When they invest in actions, emotions, and time, they feel more mature, more connected, and less likely to walk away. No one stays attached to what comes too easily, and no one cherishes what they didn't have to nurture. The more you create opportunities for someone to invest, the more irreplaceable you become in their story. Carl Jung once emphasized, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." That journey isn't just about growing alone, but about inviting someone else to grow with you, to nurture together, to contribute, and to go farther along the path of self-awareness and personal development. In the end, ask yourself, have you truly allowed the other person to invest in this relationship, or have you only been trying to do everything by yourself? Have you let someone into your vulnerable moments, your challenges, your simple joys, or are you still trying to shoulder it all to prove yourself? Don't be afraid of needing someone. That isn't dependence, it's maturity. When two people invest together, put in the effort, contribute, and take pride in the journey they've shared, that's when love is truly lasting, truly bonded, and truly hard to let go. And perhaps, just a little courage to open up, to share, to give someone the chance to invest in shared happiness. You'll not only keep someone by your side, but you'll also keep yourself at your most mature and beautiful version. We want to hear about your journey. Have you ever given someone the chance to invest in your feelings, your relationship? What changed when you opened up, allowing the other to truly walk alongside and contribute? Share your stories, reflections, or challenges you've faced when applying this principle in the comment section. Your perspective might become a powerful inspiration for someone searching for true connection. 8. Inspiration mission. Healing beyond yourself. If one day you find yourself sitting by the windowsill, watching the last rays of sunlight fall onto the wooden floor, your heart falls silent with the feeling that all the pain, the stumbles, the long nights of self-healing have now transformed into a quiet spring within. You ask yourself, after all this, what else can I bring to the world? If tomorrow I were to leave, what mark would I leave behind, besides my own scars? That question, though simple, is actually the key that opens a new level of awareness when your personal pain is no longer a wall that separates, but becomes a guiding light for others searching for their way. Have you ever found yourself full of regret, thinking, if only I had known these things earlier, if only someone had told me this when I was lost, maybe I wouldn't have gone through that darkness alone? That regret deep down is the voice urging you to become a flame for those still struggling along the journey you have already overcome. Many people, after traversing all the layers of healing, suddenly feel an emptiness. I've made it through the depths, but is that all there is? Where is the greater meaning beyond just recovering myself? And that is when a new longing appears, the desire to give back, to guide, to become a spiritual anchor, so that your journey doesn't end at personal wounds, but expands into value for the community. Psychologist Carl Jung once spoke of the archetype, the sage, the awakened teacher. A true teacher is not the one with the most knowledge, but one who causes the most others to learn. When you have overcome pain, have become strong and truly understood yourself, you suddenly feel the need to pass it on, to spread what you have learned. Because the deepest instinct is that no one wants their pain to be meaningless. Everyone longs to turn their trials into inspiration for others, so they themselves can be fulfilled in a greater sense. Modern neuroscience also confirms this. According to research by Stephen G. Post, Altruism, Happiness, and Health, 2005, when people give real value, especially spiritual value, through listening, mentoring, and inspiring others, the brain releases strong surges of dopamine and oxytocin, creating a sense of satisfaction, peace, connection, and healing that is even deeper than receiving. That is why people who overcome difficulties, if they share their experiences, often recover better, live more meaningfully, and connect more strongly with the community. You do not need to be a public speaker, a writer, or stand on a grand stage to begin this mission. Sometimes, just one moment of listening, one honest story, one persistent example, or one simple sharing is enough to become a beacon for someone lost, enough to plant hope for someone weary. When you transform your personal pain into a shared experience, you open a new door. From healing yourself, you spread that healing power to others. That is when the individual rises to become community, when scars turn into embraces. Glennon Doyle, a woman who once sank deeply into depression, divorce, and a sense of loss after middle age, chose not to keep her pain to herself. She wrote blogs, frankly sharing her journey grappling with darkness, about how she learned to listen to herself and love life again. But more than that, Glennon founded Together Rising, a place where hundreds of thousands of other women can lean on when feeling unsteady. She does not just tell stories, she empowers, she creates a widespread healing wave, letting everyone know they are not alone. Glennon says, "We can do hard things. When you dare to share your experience, you help others become stronger, and you yourself grow richer in energy and connection." Another typical example is Oprah Winfrey. Starting from a childhood full of pain and poverty, Oprah not only overcame it, not only succeeded for herself, but also chose to become a mentor to millions of women and disadvantaged communities. She built a global mentoring program, retelling her own journey to inspire others, opening space for countless more healing stories to be told. Oprah herself once admitted, "The biggest adventure you can ever take is to live the life of your dreams and then help someone else to live theirs." True growth is not a personal achievement, but when you become the keeper of the flame for someone else, the place others come to, the one who passes on inspiration so the healing circle does not stop at just one name. You might think, "But I'm not famous. I don't have anything big to give." That's not true. Sometimes, a timely question, genuine listening, silent companionship, or a sincere story about your own journey can be enough to open hope for someone feeling lost. Try starting with yourself. Write your own story. No need to polish it, just be honest. Share it with a friend who needs to hear it. Don't hesitate to offer a word of encouragement, a hug, or an afternoon coffee spent wholly with someone who's just been through loss. If possible, join a small mentoring group, or simply give your steady presence when someone needs a shoulder. The more real value you give, the more deeply you heal yourself, and the more you help expand the healing circle for the world. The question for you is no longer, "How can I hurt less?" but, "How can my pain become a light for someone else walking through the darkness I once knew?" The journey of healing is most complete when you're strong enough to lift others, mature enough to pass on what you've learned, and resilient enough to become a source of inspiration. That's the final bridge between individual and community, the moment you transform from victim to keeper of the flame, from silently enduring to opening a path for others. Carl Jung once wrote, "The sole purpose of human existence is to kindle a light in the darkness of mere being." Perhaps, the ultimate meaning of maturity is not just personal happiness, but to leave behind a bit of light for someone else searching through the long night. Living for yourself is hard enough. Living to inspire others is even harder, but it's the most worthy reward of every journey of self, healing, and awakening. Ask yourself, are you ready for a new level of awakening, where your experience becomes a lantern for someone else's path? Don't wait until you're perfect to give. Don't think you're too small to make a difference. Every time you honestly share your pain, Every time you stay with someone when they need you, every time you open your heart and plant hope, you're creating a value greater than yourself. And who knows, maybe by giving, you will finally receive the deepest sense of being healed, of living with purpose, of being part of a mission of healing not just for yourself, but for the community, for the next generation, for a circle of light that never closes. After today's journey of decoding the power of primal feminine energy, I want you to remember this. You don't have to make anyone fall in love with you, because you are already the light of your own soul. True confidence is not about being fearless, it's about not letting fear take the lead. When you awaken the anima within, you are no longer just an option, but the one who consciously chooses to be yourself. Imagine your soul as a lighthouse in the middle of the ocean. Your mission is not to swim out and search for ships, but to stand strong and shine. That light will naturally guide genuine connections to you. This is only the beginning. I want to leave you with a sincere invitation. Keep this dialogue alive within yourself. Are you ready to step into the deeper realms of your subconscious, where your wholeness and your strength are waiting? If these reflections resonate with you, please give me a like. Share this so this light can reach someone else who needs to find themselves too. And don't forget to subscribe so we can continue together on the greatest journey, the journey back to the self. See you soon.